look at the cultural and political diversity of Asian American voters. Welcome to VOA Asia Weekly. I'm Chris Casquejo in Washington. That story is just ahead, but first making headlines. Leaders of Pacific Island nations held their annual meeting in Tonga on Wednesday, with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese securing regional support for the Pacific Policing Initiative. The $271 million initiative will create a multi-country policing force that can be deployed in the region.
And bringing this to the region has been a godsend for us.
Also on Wednesday, China's foreign ministry defended its cooperation with Pacific Island countries in policing and law enforcement. Japanese automaker Toyota suspended operations at all its domestic factories Wednesday as powerful Typhoon Shanshan approached the country's southwestern region, carrying heavy rains and strong winds. Authorities issued evacuation orders for more than 800,000 residents. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping Thursday in Beijing as Sullivan wrapped up his three-day visit to China. No major breakthroughs were announced, though Sullivan's meetings could lay the groundwork for a possible final summit between Xi and U.S. President Joe Biden before Biden leaves office in January. A Hong Kong court Thursday convicted two former editors of the now-defunct online media outlet Stand News. The former editors, Chung Pui-Kwan and Patrick Lam, were charged under a colonial-era sedition law that has been used in recent years to crush dissidents. They face up to 2 years in prison. Since 2020, Asian Americans have been the fastest-growing group of eligible voters in the U.S., according to Pew Research Center. In 2022, California had the most eligible Asian American voters in the U.S., followed by New York and Texas. From Houston, Texas, VOA's Elizabeth Lee has more on the potential and challenges of the Asian American vote.
For flavors from Asia, Houston, Texas is a one-stop shop. The foods found here reflect the melting pot of Asian cultures living in the counties that make up the greater Houston region. One of them is suburban Fort Bend County, where Asians make up more than 21% of the population. It's also where Chinese-American immigrant J.J. Clements lives.
I think for either party, they really cannot afford to ignore the Asian community.
Asian Americans are among the fastest-growing ethnic groups in the U.S., according to census data. Voter turnout among this group has also seen record increases in the past two presidential elections. The Democratic nominee for president, Kamala Harris, has taken notice and recently released two ads targeting Asians. More Asian Americans call themselves Democrat than Republican. One reason? More than half of Asian American voters are immigrants.
I think Trump's policies hurt minorities a lot.
A lot of his policies not only took aim at illegal immigrants from Mexico or South America, but also restricted legal immigration.
Still, a 2024 survey of Asian American voters found that 22% identify as Republicans.
Less government is what Asians want. More freedom and less tax.
The survey also found 31% of Asian American voters identify as independents. But 42% of Asian American voters surveyed say they have not been contacted by political candidates or a political party. Daniel Wong, who had served in local elected office, says Asian American voters are partly responsible.
We are not organized. We don't understand the American political system. That's why we don't know how we're going to put our energy together to shoot for whatever common goal, which we don't have.
The projected 15 million Asian Americans eligible to vote have roots in different countries. During the last presidential election, close to 60% of Asian Americans voted. Political activists say forming relationships with new Asian American citizens and educating them about the political process will mobilize them to get involved. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Houston.
Visit voanews.com for the most up-to-date stories. I'm Chris Casquejo. Next week, Pope Francis will visit Indonesia's iconic Istiqlal Mosque, where he will hold an interfaith meeting with representatives of the country's 6 officially recognized religions. The Pope will meet delegates of Islam, Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, Catholicism, and Protestantism. About 87% of the country's 280 million people are Muslim. Thanks for watching VOA Asia Weekly.